Burn my damn finger.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
You remember when you was only 2 years old?
No,
You came into my life.
I don't.
Okay, who left the toilet running?
And many more. Burn my damn finger.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Burn my damn finger. Burn my damn finger.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
You remember when you was only 2 years old?
No,
You came into my life.
I don't.
Okay, who left the toilet running?
And many more. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe my co-host is here. I believe Dominique is here. Dominique, can you hear me? Are you there, sweetheart? Are you there? I see you.
And yes, I am. I'm here.
There
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I can definitely hear you. The question is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here once again for Make It Make Sense with Megan. This podcast featuring my host for the evening and my co-host for the evening, the one, the only, the beautiful, and the truly awe-inspiring, holistically Dom straight out of Chi-Town. So, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for
Hey,
Dominique.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I know, right?
So we definitely want to make sure this is going to be engaging. We want to make sure that everybody feels truly, truly, truly here. So we are here for episode 3 of Make It Make Sense. And once again, it is me, Justin Reese. Today we are talking about trauma, drama. We're going to talk about some ninja shit. We're going to talk about fathers and fatherless. Things that we always kind of avoid, but we're gonna get kind of deep today. So we're gonna try to make it happen. Once again, this is Justin from Facebook Live. So for those of you who are out there listening, feel free to share this link so that you can get your friends that don't know what's happening. They can call in and hear, and we can have some call in and we have some questions asked from the viewers now. Dominique, tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Dominique Clemens, LCPC, which stands for Licensed Clinical Professional Counselor. I have a heavy background in child welfare. I have worked with clients as young as 3, going into elder years. I'm all about trauma. I'm about social justice. I'm for the Black and brown people. And my specialty is trauma. So you bring your traumas to me. I help you work through and heal it. And that's that.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about trauma. As you heard Dominique drop her credentials, she is certified. It ain't just me out here talking crazy. I actually got a professional behind the scenes. So just so y'all know, it ain't just me doing what I normally do. It's just giving my own 2 cents. talk about trauma now, I will say this, right? I seen a thing earlier today, and I wish I had saved it. It was on social media, and we talked about trauma bonds that people develop in relationships where they know that they're doing wrong in a relationship, sort of like you're hurting the other person. It's toxic, but you can't let go. Give us a little insight on what kind of trauma that is. I mean, is that something you see a lot of in just your day to day life, your job? Give us a little information on a trauma bond.
Absolutely. Trauma bonds happen all over the place. But actually, when people talk about trauma bonding, they talk about the negative aspects of the behavior, and nobody talks about how you get into one, right? So usually with trauma bonding, it's when individuals are finding that relatability amongst one another about their experiences. Often they are staying not because they are just avoidant of their toxicity towards one another, but they actually are attempting to meet the need for the other person that they wish would have been met for them in the way that they would have liked to have been met.
Oh,
So people are bonding over trauma because they're having similar and shared experiences, and they are trying to be the exception for one another to mitigate the pain and things that hasn't been resolved with themselves. So that's really fundamentally what trauma bonding is, if you ask me. My humble opinion,
okay. So for all of those
basically,
out there
what
that
I
are
do.
listening, trauma bond is essentially that toxic past relationship with someone that you just can't get out of. And you're still fucking with such and such, and you know damn well that you should have left a long time ago, but dick too long scenario
You
type
just
thing.
wanted them to know you were different. Yeah.
You're trying to make that relationship work, trying to make that connection happen. But in reality, trauma bonds are essentially the situations we find ourselves in, as you just heard. And we tend to negate the fact that when we're in them, more importantly, we don't try to find a way out. And that's where we need to start
Right.
identifying where the trauma comes into play. Because if you don't identify the trauma, you find yourself right next to some drama. And as we all know,
Yeah.
drama goes hand in hand with trauma. No matter how you try to paint it, no matter how you dress it up, trauma and drama go hand in hand. And that's what we're here to talk about. Because I don't know about you, but I mean, I've been paying a lot of attention to what's going on in the world lately, and I try not to. But I know you are aware of the traumatic events that the great state of Texas has caused quite a few women
Ooh.
across the state with their radical decisions in the realms of abortion. So yeah, let's talk about the trauma, not
See,
necessarily the trauma behind the rape itself, but just the trauma behind the nonsense that is happening currently in the great state of Texas.
listen, I'm rubbing my temples right now, okay? Because I can't even. But fundamentally, when we talk about abortions, we're taking away a person's basic human rights to govern themselves.
Well,
Um, and so, regardless of whether a person believes or does not believe, I think the bigger picture has been about people kind of like, I guess, voting and basing their decisions around these laws on that, when that's not what this law is about. This is a law that gives a person the right to choose or not for you to govern their lives for them. So, forcing people to have these unwanted pregnancies contingent on the circumstances for which these children were conceived, or I'm sorry, a sperm and egg came into conceptualization. It's not children yet, but before they're conceived, that experience could have been traumatic. And now we're going to prolong a person's traumatic experience by continuing to keep them in the midst of it against their will. Um, and then make them responsible for caring for their source of trauma. Or that, maybe, let me correct that, because a child would not be the source of trauma, but the fact that they are parenting a child that came from someone who traumatized them. It's not healthy. It sets both that mother that didn't want the pregnancy and that unwanted child up for a lot of challenges and failure. It's a really unfortunate thing that is happening um, there, and I just think that people being fixated on promoting their own point of view aren't considering the big picture. It's a very narrow minded solution for a very wide cast net of a challenge that individuals may face.
Absolutely. This goes back to a very simple thing. We letting parents shut the fuck up. This is not for you.
That's it.
This is not for you to make that decision for women. This is not for you to decide on how a woman should manage her body. More importantly, if this is an experience that's led or that has come from traumatic encounters, yeah, shut the fuck up. So I mean, I'ma say it. Shut up. Y'all ain't got no business. You know, they always say things in Texas are much bigger. Clearly, brain size
Hmm.
and penises are not, because that's small dick energy right there. I ain't gonna sit here and tell
I
you
can
that
dig it.
small dick energy that I'm talking about. People gonna choose the right to, give birth or follow through with their pregnancy or to abort a baby that was born as a traumatic experience. You've got small dick energy. And I just seen a thing earlier today that Lyft, I think it was Lyft made a statement as to how they will be supporting their drivers and donating $1 million to
Oh,
Planned
Uber.
Parenthood.
Oh,
They don't agree with that shit down in Texas. I don't know.
yeah. You know, Uber and Lyft both said that they will pay any legal fees that any of their drivers incurred if they happen to have been driving someone to a clinic.
Look,
So yeah, I thought that was dope.
look. I tell you right now, there's some people out there who won't stand for bullshit in Texas. Okay, now y'all barbecue ain't been good for quite a long time, so I'm gonna need y'all motherfuckers not to take away. You know, I'm gonna need y'all not to. We have to get the
I'm not
barbecue
gonna
back.
lie. I really wanted to move to Texas.
Right.
And when I saw that law, I was like, you know what? I think the way I live my life, I should stay like north and like either just go to like the northeast or like the west, but just stay from underneath the Bible Belt.
You
You
need to
know,
stay north
just
of
go
the
visit and go
Wayback
back
Line.
home.
You got to stay north of the Mason Dixon line. That's what you got to do. Hey, we got to be talking.
Yeah, what did I say? What did I say? I said the Bible Belt. Okay, okay, it's the same
You got to
thing.
stay north of the Mason Dixon line. But
I
with that
agree with
being
that
said,
wholeheartedly.
as we talk about traumatic experiences, we talk about the craziness of Texas, but we want to kind of circle back around to those traumatic bonds, which will lead us into our next topic, which is the father and the fatherless. Now, for those of you who saw the
Oh,
advertisement or the post that I had made for this particular podcast, what we're going to talk about is a conversation that my friend and I, Holistically Dom, had just the other day. And we're talking about the difference between men who were raised in households with their fathers and men who were raised in households without their fathers. Because that is something that we as men um, don't acknowledge as being an issue in certain aspects of our lives that we feel like we got to figure it out. We didn't need our dad. Our dad wasn't there for us to be near. We needed to figure it out. And we don't realize that that traumatic bond or that lack thereof a bond structures us to be a certain way that allows us to engage the opposite sex in somewhat of a frowned upon manner at times. But Dominique, give us your 2 cents on the fathered and the fatherless. What is your stance on that?
so okay, you know we was talking about this, or we were talking about this. I try to be very careful about my words. If I'm just like not in the role of a clinician, but just being a regular African American woman who's educated and having a formed opinion, um, I find it challenging when interacting with men who are lecturing me about how to interact with a man. But out of the two of us, I'm the only person that has been raised with one in the household. And the reason for this is because oftentimes what I am told needs to be done to respect a man's manhood are none of the things that were required to respect my father. And considering there are some dynamics contingent on the nature of the relationship that are completely going to be different than my dad and myself, in general, I understand how to interact with men. But I can tell the difference when a man has a was raised in an environment around strong, influential, positive men, and when they did not have a strong male presence in their environment. And so it can often even be challenging to navigate just having conversations around it, um, because things that I say can be taken as an attack on one's manhood or me feeling I know better about how to interact with the man. And I always respond to that with, I can't tell you how to be a man, but I do know that I can tell when I'm encountering. I feel the difference. I know the difference. And so I can't tell you how to do it, but I can tell you that something you're doing doesn't align with my experience of men. And I recognize it's really reflecting. Not only was I raised with a father in my home, but like some of the experiences I hear a lot of black men discuss aren't mine. Like going to granny's house when you was growing up, or grandma's house. And legit, both of my grandfathers, I grew up calling their homes my granddaddy house. I'm going to my granddaddy house. So I recognize that contingent on who I'm having a conversation with. I'm privileged to have had a community of men, even outside of my father, that were present in my upbringing. And I really didn't realize how much I came into contact with men throughout my life. So it's very challenging when I have younger men who sometimes it feels like they are still trying to get comfortable in identifying their own masculinity and manhood and what that looks like, and trying to teach me how to acquiesce to something that I already have been taught how to acquiesce to, a la the daddy.
And I'm not mad at that. So, speaking from a man who grew up in a household with his father, and as a
Hmm.
man who works with young African American children, it's definitely noticeable in the households that lack a strong male presence. And it is something that creates a very, very unique dynamic, because I see it in these young men and I see, what they think is a measure of a man, and what they're trying to appease, or what they're trying to live up to, is some type of, not necessarily a stereotype, but some type of imagery of what it
Hmm.
means to be a man's man, and it's totally different than what I would say I grew up with having a father in this house. I will say that. I watched my mother and my father go through their trials and tribulations, and through it all, I learned what a man should do, what a man shouldn't do, how a man should or should not respond uh, to any type of altercation. I touched on this the other day. When it comes to my children, I have three boys, and I'm not the type
Hmm.
of father uh, who teaches his children to retaliate or to resolve altercations with violence or physical responses, because my father didn't teach me that. My father
Hmm.
didn't teach me that whole, somebody does something to you, you hit them back type of scenario. We weren't raised that way, and I'm not raising my boys that way, because as a black man living in this country, we don't have the luxury to respond with violence and think that it's going to be all good. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, and this is not an attack against single mothers, or families who are being raised by single mothers, but I, for one, have noticed that a lot of families dynamics where the young man is reacting this way, they're usually getting that from a split household, or from a single parent household where the mother is teaching them, boys got to defend themselves and boys have to protect themselves. And I think that's in an effort to replace the male figure that should have been there to teach them boys how to be men. Um, and it's sad. It's sad. And as a grown man, I've seen that man who grew up to think that, I gotta fill this masculine role, and I have to fill this masculine void, and I have to, be this masculine alpha dog where, all the girls want me, all the ladies want to be near me, and all the fellas are jealous of me. And I actually just, scolded, but I Well, I had to tell him. I had to tell the child, like, hey man,
Mhm.
it's not cute to be a hoe. He thought it was cute. I'm like, it's not cute to be a hoe. Like, I don't know who told you it was okay to try to talk to multiple young ladies at one time and, trying to finesse, or what was the word? He was juice. He was trying to juice these young ladies. I'm like, I don't even
Mhm.
know what's wrong with that man. But it's not cute being a hoe. So I had to let them know, young men out there, especially black men, or actually any man out there, if you are listening to this and you are a father or you are a child in a fatherless home, let me tell you something right now. You are lacking a fundamental part of your development, and it is okay to admit that you are lacking a fundamental part of your development as a man. And rather than try to fill the void of the father that wasn't there, I need you to understand that you can become the man you want to be without making this false pretense of who you are and what you want to become, to live up to some fake ideology that men have to be a certain type of way, or carry a big stick and all that. No, you know what? It's okay to admit that you don't have that bond where your father wasn't there, and it doesn't have to be. I don't care. I mean, fuck him. Actually, you do. And honestly, and I'm not the psychologist here. I'm
Excuse
not
me.
the counselor. I ain't got the degrees in psych. But I'm gonna say this: take that experience or that bond and turn it around. Rather than trying to fill the gap of what your father didn't do, learn from that. They always say be the adult for the child that or be the adult for a kid that you wish you had, type of scenario. Not
Mhm.
this toxic masculinity shit. Because I hate to hear it from a woman saying, I can clearly identify the differences between a man who was raised with a father and a man who wasn't. Because that goes to tell you there's a breakdown in society where men are now starting to divide into these two categories of what you have as a father child and a fatherless child, is becoming quite apparent. Because you know what the one thing is, and this is very rare, but there aren't many households lacking mothers, but there's a ton of households lacking fathers. And it has to get better.
Excuse me.
It has to get better. And that's just one of those family bonds that we know it's there, but ain't nobody
Yeah.
about the other family. Hold on. You feel me?
Yeah. I was gonna say that. It is a lot of. There is a lot of communication at this point. I'm hearing a lot more conversation about males specifically wanting women to be held more accountable, and specifically around the area of parenting. And the way that I have conceptualized it or I presented towards people is that I am in agreement that there probably were a lot of deficits in the parenting experience growing up in some of these single parent homes. And I consider the fact that when you think of young women who could have been adolescents with adult males, or even just two adolescents together, or a woman that has had a very traumatic lifestyle but hasn't gotten the support and and space to have the healing that they need to be in a healthy space. You have these traumatized women who are then left to raise these children alone, and they're trying to figure out how to navigate that. So absolutely there's going to be space for accountability where a person's impact didn't match the intent. um, and I think that we have to acknowledge that trauma infects families just like that. Nobody respected, acknowledging, taking a moment to be tender to me because of my traumatic experiences, being impatient with my healing process, that it's not moving at the pace that someone else dictates that it needs to be. Then what do we expect to happen when we leave these people unsupported to raise vulnerable children? And children are nothing but reflections of ourselves. So then the things that you dislike and you struggle with about self, you will now experience for your children, and you lash out.
You better let them know.
You
Honestly,
get-
I
Thank
would let
you.
them know. But and that's why we wanted to touch on this topic of trauma and drama, because that is what we're facing in today's world. as
Hmm.
African American men, looking back at my own people, we did not start to acknowledge that mental health was a thing until like the last 10 years. And we have to do better at recognizing like there are things in our own community that we have been running from for a very, very long time, such as counseling, wholistic therapy. These things are real, and we need to really address them and deal with them from the reality of now versus the falsehoods of something else. That doesn't really pertain to what we got going on. So, once again, I thank my co-host this evening, holistically Dom, for being here with us again. I'm not the
Thank
professional.
you for
She
having
is.
me.
I want 100%. We ain't done yet, but I just want to make sure I gave you your props because again, she's the professional, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all heard at the very beginning, she got the credentials. I just got a microphone and a camera, so therefore, I'm just doing what I do best, which is running my mouth and saying what I think is what I think, and that's just pretty much it. So once again, guys, we want to talk about trauma and drama, how they go hand in hand. We want to talk about fatherless, not the fathered and the fatherless. We want to make sure that we are giving a space for men to be men, but we also want to acknowledge the fact that there are still traumatic bonds in those households that were divided, or those households that grew up without their father being there. And I tell you right now, as a grown man who had his father up until the time he passed, not having my father would have been 10 times worse. Um, just looking at how my life is now without him having passed at an early age, I couldn't even imagine growing up without my father. I am close to 40, and I'm still reflecting on the memories and the lessons that my father taught me, and the example that he set, as he was
But
a very, very stand up and straightforward man. And my father wasn't perfect. My father was far from perfect. But my father definitely gave me something to reflect on and something to work with in how I develop as a person and how I developed as a father. So I thank him. May he rest in peace. But I really, really want you guys to understand that what we're talking about tonight is serious, and we wanted to make sure that we hit that home, from the jump. Now that we've done that, now it's time to get to my section that I really wanted to get to. We're going to call this ninja shit. This is the section where we're going to talk about things that black people do, or that have done recently, that make absolutely no fucking sense. So we're gonna talk about this now. My dear sister Dominique had brought this to my attention. In the midst of her bringing it to my attention, I had also seen it on Instagram on comedian DL Hughley's page. There is a young brother out there somewhere who thought
uh,
it was appropriate to repurpose the noose that was used to hang black people and turn it into a motherfucking coffin. If this ain't the most ass backwards nigga shit I done ever seen, and oh my god, y'all don't understand.
that's nutty.
That's ninja shit right there. Now, Dominique and I had this conversation. I can see where this brother thought for a hot second, I'm gonna profit off the ignorance and the bigotry and the hatred of this world, and I'm gonna sell ties that look like nooses that they hung black men from trees on. Now, I'm sure there are a couple of rednecks somewhere in the deep south who would love to get them some ties that look like that. But you know the problem is, young brother, that they're not going to wear the damn ties because they don't want the noose on their neck.
Exactly.
They want it on your neck. So,
Exactly.
I mean, Dominic, what's your thoughts on this? I seen the post.
Mm.
And then the sad part is I seen the post. The brother was modeling the different color. He had different color nooses. Like that's gonna make it
Listen,
better. He was modeling the bitches like I was supposed to go, you know what? I don't like the idea of having a rope around my neck because it reminds me too much of slavery when black men could get hung just for looking at a white woman crossing the street. But that burgundy noose, ooh, god damn it, I kill him in church on Sunday. That is not what I thought.
listen, listen. I can't even. So okay, personally, I made my first official TikTok video after I saw that. Okay, and it looked like I made it, and I'm my age. I look my age on the TikTok. Okay, but my thing was, I thought about how like when you have a theory that makes perfect sense in one place, and you apply somewhere else, you recognize that maybe your theory wasn't as solid as you thought it was.
Talk about it.
So when I looked at that, I said, why in the world would you ever? Like, if you want to repurpose it, like, nah, some stuff just don't need to be repurposed. And then it made me think about the N word. I'm still processing this in my head because that's another word we repurposed. And it's a word that a lot of our ancestors heard lastly before they got pushed to hang on that noose. And it made me start to think, are we repurposing things when really we just perpetuating anti-blackness and perpetuating self-hatred and doing it in the name of pop culture?
Oh, we definitely practicing self hatred. That bullshit. You not gonna sit here and tell me we gonna repurpose the noose? The fuck? That's like saying the Jews are gonna repurpose the swastika.
Right.
I
Crazy.
mean, if we gonna talk about it, let's talk about it, people. If we gonna repurpose things that represent hatred and evil and just damnation, let's repurpose all this shit. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get the Jews together. We're gonna repurpose the swastika. We're gonna repurpose that. We're gonna repurpose the noose. Shit. For those of you who don't know about the potato famine that happened in Ireland, where everybody thinks that the Irish really love potatoes. No, that was just because the only food they can grow at the time was potatoes because the English had took all their crops and basically decimated the country, and potatoes are the only thing they can grow that they can survive off of. Let's make potatoes more fun again. Let's do some
Hi,
shit. Let's just
baby.
take all the things that remind us of our history, that these things were not okay, and let's make them okay. That's all I'm saying, right? That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So no, we're not doing that shit. So to the young man out there who decided that it was a good idea to take the noose and turn it into a tie, shame on you, brother. Shame
Just
on you.
don't.
Okay? Shame on you.
Some
That was
ideas, some ideas need to be like those songs we never hear that stay like in file 13. Like that should stay idea in file 13. Like you should have like ate a brownie and had like the edible moment with your friends and laughed about it, and then don't do that no more.
bro, that's one of them things you just be like, can I talk about that out loud?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
don't do it. So, as much as I want to make that part of my the show even humor, that is still a traumatic bond. We making it all dramatic,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's just traumatic. I for
Right.
one have never
Right.
been hung, never have ever been hung, but I have seen the pictures of black men and women hanging from trees. I have
Woo!
seen the pictures of my ancestors swinging from trees. I seen it. I've seen what they have done to us with those ropes, what they've done with those nooses. And I, for one, cannot and will not put them on my neck and say it is a fashion statement of any kind whatsoever. There is no way on God's
Period.
green earth that I will ever stand by a man, no matter. This goes back to all skin folk and kinfolk. Boy, you wrong. Ain't nothing. If I knew your name right now, I'd curse you. If I knew your name, I'd curse you. But I'm
You
not
curse
going.
his name.
I
I rue
I
the day that you
rule.
were born.
Boy, I wish your mama would have swallowed you. Like that's how I feel. You just need to stop. That's some bullshit. So I just wanted to I just had to make sure we covered that because no, you don't do
Yeah,
nothing
it's
like
just
that.
what profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul. Period.
Not a damn thing, brother. You ain't profiting shit. Them ties ain't gonna sell that much for you to make up for what you did. Hell to the no.
That's crazy.
Hell to the no. But again, we want to talk
We
about
live and we
trauma.
learn though. So
You know what, Dominic? I didn't learn nothing from this. I lived it, and I ain't
You
learned
didn't
nothing
learn
from this
anything?
moment. I don't know what lesson was being taught that day in school where we figured out nooses was gonna be victorious.
Listen,
You boy.
it's America. It's capitalism, baby. If we could sell it, we
Hey, and
selling
you know what? I get it. I seen black men on the side of the road selling Trump shirts, and I know damn well they voted for Biden, and they just trying to capitalize on the crazy. But that's the one thing I just can't see be anything that you want to capitalize on. You want to capitalize on nooses, and you know the sad part
That's
is,
people.
not even the sad part. I just wonder how many other brothers out there have actually gotten pregnant. Like, I just want to see it happen. I want to see what happens. So, I need him to figure it out on what's going to be the thing that he does with his life, because that wasn't it. That wasn't it, sir. So I don't know what to tell you. But so let's try to end this note. Let's try to end this podcast on something a little bit more. Actually, you know what? I can't even say that this is less traumatic. If y'all haven't heard or gave it a spin, for those of you who don't know, believe it was just last week, last Friday, Kanye West had dropped a new album, Donda. Or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I didn't listen to that shit at all. And the reason why I didn't listen to it is because Kanye fell off after the Graduation album. Any solo project he did after Graduation just went downhill slowly but surely.
Hmm.
And as Dominique is from Chi-Town, she could probably attest to that. But Kanye West dropped an album that nobody gave any shits about. The real kicker in the balls is that just this past Friday, Drake dropped an album called Certified Lover Boy. Now you would think with a title like that for an album, it ain't gonna be nothing but the typical Drake singing and crying in the shower type music. But when I tell you that this man came for the throats of regular rappers and rappers elite, he came for Swiss Beats, he came for Kanye, he came for a couple people. Even Jay-Z was on there co-signing on some of that shit. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if Kanye was smart, which we all know he's not, he wouldn't respond. He better not respond. I hope he don't respond, but if he does, I at least hope for the next 6 months we get some great music out of it. But Kanye ain't been great for quite some time. Dominic, your thoughts on that?
So, firstly, I've always, up until as of late, looked at Kanye. I always call him cousin Kanye when I talk about him, right? So, in my mind, cousin Kanye, like my aunt described it for me. Cousin Kanye is like your cousin that was playing too rough in the house, and he knocked over the Nintendo, and y'all was about to master like the last page. And so, like, you pissed at Kanye in the moment, but you still like him because he kind of like one of your favorite cousins,
Right.
right? But now, like Kanye, you just starting to get a little out of hand. I still in the back of my mind be hoping like maybe he sees something we don't see and he's gonna come back with an alley to save the day. We should be like, we sorry, we doubted you, Kanye. But my outlook is pretty bleak. Um, Kanye, like okay, so I don't know if he said this. I just saw it online that it was said that his manager had made a statement like if Drake didn't diss him,
Oh,
he
I know. He
would
said
like
on
it would be
TV,
like a
his
truce.
manager said, as
And
long
I
as
was
Drake
just
don't diss him, we good. That's what?
I was just like, how you get this man address out? And then one of my friends like, but he probably don't even be at that house most of the time. I was like, it doesn't matter. Any like even it just makes the house vulnerable for being robbed. That man got a child. Like
Yeah,
he might not be home that day, but somebody else might be like, are you out of your mind? Then to turn around and do something like that, and then be like, well, if he don't diss me, so if he don't say anything to you, then all's well. After you then gave up this man residence, like cut it out. That's not respected at the crib. I don't know nobody at home who be with that. They
yeah,
call that some hoe shit.
yeah. That's some
I'm
sorry
not.
story shit.
I'm not speaking on Kanye. I don't know him personally as a man. I'm just saying that behavior is definitely considered hoe shit at the crib.
I'm gonna just tell y'all right
You weak
now.
as hell.
I don't know Kanye either, but I'll tell you what, brother. When you gave us Jesus walks, that's the last time you should have talked about the Lord. Because when you start making gospel
Oh,
music, that's when I lost it. That's when I was like, nope,
listen.
nope, nope.
I
Because y'all
also
remember
was
what happened to
really
Mason
frustrated.
Betha, okay?
Listen,
Mace was out here talking
listen.
about why you over there looking at me, and then he came back as a preacher, and that shit did not last. So let's not do that. Let's not do that at all. So I mean, we want the best for all the artists out here. We want everybody to be successful. We want all people of color to find their stride and find their lane and get all they can out of this world because this world ain't gonna give a shit else. But yeah, brother, don't do that shit. So
That was not cool. It
yeah,
wasn't. We're
yeah,
not with it. So
we're not with it.
Kanye, I'm disappointed. Oh, and I didn't really want to hear his album because it felt like it was a hip hop ode to evangelical Jesus, who I'm pretty sure is white.
Well,
So like, I also didn't like that piece either.
well, okay.
I ain't like it. Like, so I didn't even listen to the album for real. I had heard the first version of it before, like,
I
they
haven't listened
dropped the
to it.
whole thing. I listened to like two or three songs. I skipped all of them. I just was over it. But like, it ain't no. I ain't gonna even like speak to the quality of his music because clearly the album, I'm not the fan base for it. So yeah, I mean, I could have lived without it.
I banged with Kanye for a long time. It's like I said, after his graduation album, his solo work was just down the tubes for me. So, but
He can't relate to us anymore. He's out of
it is what it
touch.
is. That's all I can say. But I want to thank my good friend Holistically Dom for being here. Your guest this evening, Dom. Thank
Thank
you so
you,
much
Justin.
for being here with us. You was able to get on the fly. This is completely. I look forward to having you on the show again. I look forward to being your guest as well. This
Absolutely.
actually worked out really well. I'm glad this platform allows me to have a live show. We had a few people join in and kind of see what was going on, and I want to get more people in here as much as possible. But I really, really, really appreciate you being here this evening with us.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much. Once again, y'all, we want to thank you for joining us here on Make It Make Sense, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything, unedited, unscripted, uncut, and unapologetic. So, I'm your host, Justin Meat Peaks, aka Podcast Peaks. I will catch you next time, Dominique. Once again, it's absolutely a pleasure to speak to you on this platform. You
All
know
right,
we are going to
fam.
wrap. We're going to catch up as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
So you guys make sure y'all listen out for the next podcast. Who knows who's gonna be in here next? Who knows what wild shit's gonna happen between now and next week when I do another podcast? Who knows?
Turn
But
up.
I told y'all, man, y'all gotta give me 5 solid episodes and follow me. Make sure y'all hit that follow, that like, that share, that subscribe. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel. Make sure y'all follow the IG page. Make sure y'all keep up with me on my Podbean. Also, just so you guys know, we're gonna keep this party going. Hopefully, starting next month, and that is in the month of October, you will be able to find my podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, and all those different streaming medias. So that way you don't have to just necessarily find me on Podbean. I'll be everywhere here for you. So once again, thank you, Dominique, for being here with us. And I will talk to you guys on the flip
Thank
side.
you.
Y'all be safe out there. Love you.